What's going on, everybody? David Mitchell here, voice of Autism, episode 82. Well, I had to start over to up a miserable set because stuff was not acting right, but I think I got it fixed now. But yeah, I have a video from a friend of mine who is calling out the bullshittery from anti-vaxxers and preachers. If you guys know what preachers are, people who like preaching and all that, then let me show you the video.
So here we go. This is not exactly a question from me. This is a message I wanted to
That my friend
to you, Mr. Wingfield.
speaking up
Actually,
for our community.
I'm autistic, and on behalf of the autistic community, we want to thank you very much for all the harm you caused to not only the people that could avoid preventable diseases, but also all autistic people, and autistic children especially, those who suffer from this abuse by MMS bleach, and also chelation and all kind of bullshittery, quakery treatment. There is no way to treat autistic, and this is caused by that, by an affirmation, making people believe that correlation and chronicity does equal causation, and that's not.
Another train to get ready to go by.
That is the logical fallacy, the post hoc cum hoc ergo propter fallacy. Just because it happened before even B, even A, which happened before, does not cause even B. In a matter of chronicity, that is wrong. And because people took this seriously as something, as the gospel, as something totally true, the harm was done, and that's too late. 20 years, and we're still at that right now. Still with that abuse, bleach, stuff like that, quakery, directly linked to this bullshittery. You are responsible for.
You called him out on it, and also, the dude was pissed at him and is scared of him because the person that he was calling out is just scared now because the autistic community is not going to keep on putting up with it. And I agree, we will not keep on putting up with people who try to breach MS or try to do all that other crap to us.
This fucker had nothing to say. Just by leaving outside he passed by me and said, "Thank you for your insight." I sensed he was being uncomfortable and intimidated. He can't expect an autistic to scare him that much, perhaps.
He was not expecting it, but it happened. It's karma. We are standing up and not letting any one of some of the guns push us around. But yeah, we're not putting up with it. Because it's not right. Like, what are we? We will keep on moving, keep on fighting, keep on getting our voice out there. Do you know why? Because that's what we want. We want change. We want to be heard. We don't want to be silenced at all. Like, literally. And yeah, I'll get you that 40-minute video right when I get done with all the other stuff. But we got a couple to go through that are big for the community today too. And I think people need to hear. Like, what are we? Like, it's something I think people need to hear.
The ASPERGIAN. A Neurodivergent Collective. Menu. The Perils of Autism Awareness Articles 6 Minutes Read. By HEVVAJO. Posted on June 12, 2019. Editor's note, Heather is non-autistic but a fierce advocate and fellow neurodivergent person. Sophie and her bully. Before I begin, this blog may be very triggering for autistics who have been bullied at school. This is, however, an essential share for many parents of autistic children about respecting their child's privacy, so please share. The Christmas holidays went far too fast. Usually I find the change unsettling and enjoy the routine of school, but this year is different. I am worried sick. I have been repeatedly bullied by one girl for the last year. I don't know why she targets me. I have never done anything wrong to her, she just is. After several complaints to the school, I was finally believed. My bully was pulled up before the holidays. I have no idea what had been said but was reassured it would stop. This will be my first day back after the holidays. Maths is first, and I can cope with that, but my bully is in my English class. My stomach is churning even more than usual, but I must go to school. Exams are soon, and my dream is to be a market researcher.
Yep,
I excel in maths. Maths class went okay, and now I am heading to English. My friend is still on holiday, so I have to sit by myself. I walk in, looking straight at my seat. Once seated, I glance over to see the girl who bullied me. She is staring at me. A sharp pain hits my eyes, as it usually does with eye contact, and I have to look away. Where is the teacher? I think. Why is she not in yet? My bully opens the blinds in the classroom, which half blinds me, the sun piercing and hurting my eyes. She knows what she is doing. My whole body is frozen. My bully approaches the front of the class. The reality of autism, she announces with a printout in her hands, written by Catherine McDonald. I am in shock. I stick my head firmly on my desk, not looking at anyone. What on earth has she seen? What the hell has my mother written? Autism has caused my divorce. The first paragraph, what? I thought my dad said their divorce had nothing to do with that. My dad lied. Sophie still isn't toilet trained, and she is 5. Quote. This creates a huge uproar of cackling from all the kids in the class. It is deafening, the sound of laughter piercing my eardrums. Her meltdown was so bad today. Why can't we just have a normal shopping trip? No wonder I drink wine. Ha, your mom's got that drinking problem due to you, she laughs. My bully then puts the article down and marches to my desk. You used to smear shit, didn't you, all over your room? So you still do that? Another child shouts, what a retard. Your poor mom went through all this crap due to you, my bully shouts. You are...
If I was there and said, look, you're a fucking bully, I'll probably grab her and say, don't you ever fucking insult autistic again. Put her against the wall, telling her, see that? This is what happens when you bully somebody. And this will happen to all you if you insult the autistic again. Do I make myself clear? I would simply to put the fear in them. Even though I'm a nice person, but when it comes to bullying the autistic, that triggers me. Because I'm autistic myself. Like, literally, that's just something not right.
Her scum. You should never have been born. The bully puts the printout on my desk. She had printed the comments too, people thanking my mom for being brave, being honest, telling it like it is, wondering how she did it all. There were comments from my aunt and my gran. This is enough. I jump up and run. I push my teacher over, running out of the room. I know exactly where I am going. This is too much. As I had predicted, the run to the bridge takes 8 minutes, 26 seconds. I allow myself 120 seconds to try to solve my predicament. As previously calculated, it takes 5.12 seconds for me to jump and for my head to smash on a rock below. This is my final calculation. A child's needs. As you will have guessed, this is a fictional character, but unfortunately may well be a real one. The one place children should feel safe in their own skin is at home. There seems to be a type of parent who simply fails to see into the future. Fails to understand that their child will grow up with their own autonomy, that their own privacy needs to be respected. That the little child who seems so vulnerable and unable to cope with life outside will one day need to. That the child's life is their own, not an extension of their parents' life experience. Critics would say we need awareness. People need to understand the struggles families go through. Parents need to be able to relate to each other. I get it, I really do. It's therapeutic to write your issues down. It's rewarding to get positive feedback. It's reassuring to read something that is similar to your own life. I honestly understand. That is why private and closed groups on social media are good. You can share, you can learn, and you can get great ideas. At the moment, though, the internet is still in its infancy. We have no idea where all the articles will go and who will see them. Personal blogs can be deleted, but how do we know people haven't copied them? Clickbait articles can bring in a good income. But I get my child's permission before I share what I have written. This is something I read as if it's justified. Asking your 9-year-old's permission is not the same as asking a consenting adult. They have no idea how many people may read what you write about them. They have no understanding of the impact it will have on their future. It is simply not right for them to have that kind of responsibility as a child. So how can we get our stories out without being 100% honest about who we are? It's not that hard. Use a different name. Call your kid Squiggle. Use free stock photos. Just respect their privacy. Perhaps bigger companies won't accept this, but what is more important than need to tell your story or your child's privacy? Mental health and self-care. One more thing I would like to say, though, is please keep an eye on your mental health. Yes, writing down things may seem therapeutic, but publishing your articles in magazines, press, etc. is not a long-term solution. Many publishers would be only too happy to accept your articles. Often, the more negative and depressing the article, the more likely it is to go viral. People love a tragic story. Just remember these articles stay online forever. Think of your own future, too, and the way what you write can be interpreted about you.
First off, if we want to stop it, we need to start changing up Jones and Mookie, or enough with doing this. Start putting up with it, Jones, and we're going to be changing up to your stuff. Like, but in this way, jump on it that they don't want. Like, what are we? That one, they won't post anything that give their company a bad name. I know companies that care about their images won't want to even dare it, so check we go after them with Jonathan Look, you post bad stuff about people try to bring people down, you try to see enough with using that. Like scare them straight into jobbing it, banning it. I'm all for freedom of speech because I am a check we they call people who freedom patriots and all that. What I am, but sometimes they abuse it.
You. The articles that you publish about your family's life can influence your child's future. This can be a weapon for bullies, put off a future love interest, dismiss a college application, or ruin a job opportunity. These people won't have the knowledge you do about your child, but will have the ability to do a Google search. Don't ruin your child's life by prioritizing the need to vent about your own. Sophie's life. Let's look at Sophie's life again from the fictional vignette at the beginning of this article. If Catherine, her mom, had changed her name, protected her daughter's name, spoken only in private groups, and maybe sought counseling, perhaps things would be different. As a bonus, if Catherine had connected with autistic adults, she might have gotten more of an insight into her daughter's meltdowns, had more patience toward toileting issues and understood her scotolia issue, and learned that her daughter will one day, perhaps, be an independent young woman with her own thoughts and feelings. Don't be like Catherine. Respect your kids' privacy, and don't give future bullies ammunition. About. Latest post.
Exactly. And I know people from Autism Speaks do that. Yeah, I'm calling the organization out for what it really is. Like, a lot.
Thank you. I've seen so many autism moms writing about their experiences with the aim of helping other parents of autistic kids, but without much regard for the repercussions for their own children. It takes a little nicknames, a little code, masking your own identity, or just not writing some things publicly to keep your child safe. Thanks for making the point. Loading. Reply. Unicorn magic.
Mm-hmm. Literally, like, there are people out there that are just scummy enough to do that. And I did find it evil. It did pure evil in a way. In my eyes, it did pure evil.
Behavior analysis, the autistic way. And Mehmet PGC. And Autism. Blogspot.com. Autistic children endure a lot of behavior analysis, usually done by non-autistic people who are not trained to interpret autistic behavior and motivation. Often they are taught to assume that the motivation is the same as that of non-autistic children. Thus, if a child gets out of their seat, they are taught that perhaps they are avoiding working and need to be incentivized to sit down and concentrate. Or perhaps that they are attention-seeking and need to be ignored. There's entire years of courses designed around such theories. Autistic children aren't the same as non-autistic children, though. Their reasons for behaving in a particular way are often different because their brains are designed to work differently. I see too many books and training courses where teachers are told that autistic communication and social skills are faulty, that autistic children are usually to blame and need altering. New research shows clearly that this isn't so, as I talk about on my blog. Autistic people use a genuinely different way of socializing and collaborating, and can often communicate and collaborate well together.
Mm-hmm.
But the difficulties arise when an autistic and a non-autistic person try to understand one another.
Exactly.
Let's say we have a 5-year-old autistic girl, Sam. Sam is asked to sit still on the floor at school during circle time. Sam does not sit still. Sam gets up and wanders round. What's potentially happening here? Firstly, let's look at how the classroom may appear to Sam. Not all autistic children will see this exact effect when in noisy, busy, fluorescent lit spaces. Some do. In this, perhaps the teacher becomes invisible in the sensory chaos. Photo courtesy and Mehmet. Image, overexposed photo of a busy, cluttered classroom. Secondly, Sam may be able to hear people talking across the entire school. Next door, moving in the hallways, chairs scraping, bells sounding, planes overhead, clocks ticking. It is a deafening, bewildering experience for those whose hearing is designed to detect oncoming danger, and so who listens to everything, everywhere, all the time. Often, the teacher becomes impossible to hear. That's a reality of autistic hearing for many.
True.
Thirdly, Sam may find sitting on a hard floor intensely painful, and doing so becomes torture.
Did about I don't tell my parents, but I was forced to sit down a lot back in elementary school on concrete. Like by the time I got home, I was not even able to like sit on something. All I was able to do was lay down in the bed. And I think that really affected me now because it ended up a long period of time. I think it affected my sanity because I got scoliosis where my spine it curved, like my spine actually curved. And I think that was one of the factors that caused me some problems. Literally.
Torture. Autistic sensory differences may mean things tolerable for others are beyond our ability to cope. Fourthly, Sam may have restless leg syndrome, RLS. Some autistic people do. Researchers suspect it is due to a chemical imbalance that causes intense feelings of rising uncomfortableness, often in the legs. Usually, the only quick way to stop the torment of it is to move sometimes. Look it up. Fifthly, Sam may have a form of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. Some autistic people do. It can lead to joint problems, pain, exhaustion, and extreme difficulty sitting unsupported. None of that is deliberate avoidance or attention seeking, nor is it slumping in a chair because of a poor attitude. Sixthly, does Sam also have ADHD? There's a big overlap between autism and ADHD, and sometimes the ADHD is missed. Sitting and concentrating for a long time can be almost impossible for some, therefore, and breaks desperately need to be taken.
Exactly.
Seventhly, Sam may encounter what some autistic people may experience when in sensory hellish places or during too much social interaction, unusual brain activity. Not a full epileptic seizure, but spikes in electricity in the brain, which can lead to unusual responses for a while. Those are entirely out of the individual's control. It may lead to them shutting down or melting down, the former being a switch-off response where they cannot communicate. The latter resembling a temper tantrum, but it is not. Neither response can be behavior trained out of them, as it is not a chosen behavior. Possible reason 8, Sam may find that being jostled leads to intense pain, for example in circle time if the children are very close. An unexpected jostling can feel like being electrocuted. Sam may wish desperately to put space between themselves and potential pain, etc., and may need a much bigger personal space zone. Some autistic children flap their arms or shake their fingers in front of their eyes, for example. Finding our bodies is really hard, because we don't have a good body map in our brains, so this helps locate which bit of us is where. Or it may be a way to regulate what we're doing and feeling. Or it may be a way to understand how far away we are from other things. Making it stop is somewhat like stopping a deaf child using sign language, but worse. Yet, I see, extinguishing repetitive behavior on so many behavior plans for the children. Some repetitive movement may be around RLS and EDS also, see above. There's another reason why Sam may be patrolling the outskirts of the group. We're generally better at detecting oncoming danger. In villages and tribes, autistic people would have the hearing range and eyesight detail that might enable them to be the very first to hear an oncoming predator. The very first to smell approaching smoke. Being on the outskirts, watching, listening, is potentially how a lot of communities survive. A village would benefit from such a lookout person, not distracted by social chatting and looking at the eyes of other people. That patrolling behavior could be a perfectly natural autistic instinct, therefore. In class, it's a behavior that may need clarification, that they can relax, that all is okay, that they can return to their place because there are alarms, sensors, and staff already taking care of that detecting. Number of behavior manuals I've ever read this in. None at all. A further possible reason for behavior is around trauma. Too many autistic children are victims of traumatic experiences at the hands of some others, and go on to show clear symptoms of PTSD. Escape responses or other trauma responses are not then being naughty. They are from a place of terror. Behavior plans take little or no notice of this possibility, in my experience. All autistic behavior has always been thought of as faulty, until recent research has helped us understand its wider purpose. So, what can we do to potentially help Sam to hear, see, relax, and not be in pain? Let's think. First, Sam's medical team may wish to do some autism-friendlier testing for those medical possibilities of RLS, EDS, or epileptiform brain spiking. It may be worth someone doing an investigation for ADHD too, and a general medical checkup for any other pain condition or illness. Many autistic children do not register pain and illness in the usual ways, and so may not be able to explain these. Mindful of our own son, who played sport with a broken foot for some weeks, not registering the pain he was in. Thus, medical teams thought it was just bruised. Can Sam's class not have fluorescent lights or blinding spotlights? Can they be switched off if it's bright enough outside? Can Sam have sunglasses perhaps, or a baseball cap to cut out glare? Can Sam trial noise-canceling headphones perhaps? Can Sam be allowed to sit on a comfy chair to avoid collisions and to enable better support and less sensory pain? Can Sam have regular scheduled short breaks and a signaling system to say they need this? Can electrical equipment in the class, overhead projector, computers be switched off to minimize noise? Can rooms be carpeted, if budget allows? Can people please ask Sam what would help? Capitalized, because strangely enough so many never think to do this. Whilst some autistic children do not use spoken language, all can communicate. Sometimes the behavior is the communication. See below for involving autistic expertise in translating, if needs be. Personally, I want to congratulate Sam for being in that class at all, and engaging in any way, given the obstacles. I start from thinking, how fantastic to be in a class with Sam. This is my learning opportunity. What behavior and attitudes of mine can I change? Certainly I'd want to bring in autistic specialists. That's different from autism specialists. Autistic specialists are professionals who are autistic and are able to interpret and decode autistic communication and behavior. They can interpret autistic communication and note any sensory difficulties that non-autistic brains may miss. Quite easy to find these days. I'd want to affirm and support Sam, enabling them to be their best autistic selves. Like any child, Sam may well try to get out of activities just because there's something more fun or less work. But that's not my go-to for autism. Generally, autistic children want to learn and want to follow rules. If that has gone wrong, we need to think way beyond the toolkit for decoding non-autistic children, which is the one so often used. Our autistic children are doing their best to survive in schools. We need to move beyond the old mantras and myths around reasons for behavior and into a present and future where we understand deeply and work collaboratively.
Exactly.
Then, we have better experiences and outcomes for everyone. Thank you for reading.
That one, so all the stuff that we explain. Now what?
Welcome to Test Pedagogy. Today my guest is Dr. Luke Bearden. He is Senior Lecturer and member of the Autism Centre at Sheffield Hallam University. He's been researching this area for more than 20 years, and that's our topic for today. Luke, do you want to start by talking about why this perception perhaps exists of autism as a definable characteristic of somebody, and how that's in no way the reality?
Yeah, it's kind of part of what makes everybody human, and at what point do you start breaking those individuals down into groups. So I think at a sort of meta level you can say, okay, well, everybody's a human being, and then you might arbitrarily, some people might say, well, there's men, there's women, there's people of 5 foot, there's people of 6 foot, and at some point we as a society, or clinicians particularly in academics, have decided there's a group that can come under this umbrella term of autism. One of the problems with that being, as soon as you adopt any kind of labelling, then society in general often assumes wrongly that means that they're a conglomerate, that all of those people under that label umbrella are the same, and clearly they're not. Everybody is as individual as everybody else.
And do you think that the way autism is presented in the media can sort of make that situation worse?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a massive exacerbation of what you might call autistic stereotypes. So over the years, over the decades, first of all came Rain Man, and everybody thought, oh, autistic people are all like Rain Man. He was based on 5 different individuals, the history shows.
Oh, right.
And not all of those were portrayed particularly. It was all very, the sort of key stereotypes that were brought out into the character. And even subsequently to that, a lot of the documentaries are either your kind of savant type, high achiever in certain area type adult, and savantism is not prolific in autism. So that's one of the myths. People often think, oh, if you're autistic, you must be good, splendidly good at a particular skill. It's not true at all. About 10%, maybe, something along those lines. And then you've got the other class, if you like, of documentary of the sort of child from hell with huge behavioural problems, and autism being portrayed very much as a tragedy. And really, historically within the media, there's not been that much in between. I think over the last sort of latter years, things are getting
One organization made autism look like a travesty, and it began with an A. If you guys get Autism Speaks, you'd be correct. Autism Speak made the commercial called I Am Autism back in 2012, and then they did the fucked up documentary called Autism Every Day. That made autism look like a tragedy. And one of the parents actually talked about putting her autistic daughter in a car, driving her and her autistic daughter off of the Washington Bridge, and committing suicide. But the only reason why she didn't is because of her normal child that did not have autism. I was really pissed off that an organization that supposed to help people with autism would do a fucking thing like that. They're no worse than Nazis. Literally. And the murder moms, what I call parents who make the autism look like a tragedy to get money from it and make money off of them, they are fucking disgusting. Horrible, horrible type of people. They're disgusting to the point where it's unacceptable. Like, literally. And that one part that we need to change. Like, literally. If we don't change it, people in the autistic community will still suffer. Will still suffer because of stuff like that if we don't stop it. It don't stand up. Tell them enough. Now let's get back to it.
A lot better. There are truer, if you like, representations. But as soon as you represent autism, you're going to get it wrong anyway. As soon as you say, okay, this is an autistic person, then you can say, well, yeah, but that's not typical of an autistic person because there's no such thing as a typical autistic person. Mm-hmm. So it's a real issue, really.
What do you think of the label autism then? Is it still useful despite that? Or?
I'm very pro identification of being autistic. First and foremost for the individual and for the family. I think it's an important identity if one is autistic and one doesn't know about it.
Me and my fiance have been talking about something, and yet my fiance YouTube channel link down below if you want to go to her YouTube channel. But I will get everything fixed up for next week live stream later on. If you guys want to go to her YouTube channel, but yeah.
Then I think the danger is that one understands self against a set of categories that aren't actually pertinent to you. Okay. So you're always comparing yourself against what I call the predominant neurotypes of the majority of the population, and coming up short because you're not actually part of that cognitive circle, if you like.
So you sort of need an answer to.
So I think it does. It provides massive answers to who you are as a person or who your child is as a child. So I think in terms of understanding the individual and where they're coming from is massively important. What I find problematic is not being autistic, or not the individual being autistic per se, is assumptions, misconceptualizations of the broader society that are then implied or given to that individual without society getting to know that person as a person. I often say, if you know somebody's autistic, you know they're autistic. That's it. You don't know anything else about them at all. You've got to get to know them as an autistic person to get any kind of insight into where they're coming from. So I think you can't make any assumptions whatsoever just based on the label, apart from that person is of a differing cognitive style.
Do you think then that in schools especially, having a label can take teachers down a route that perhaps leads to off-the-shelf interventions for autism as a broad diagnosis, or is it helpful that a teacher can get some answers to why a child might behave in a certain way?
It's a bit of both. Depends on how good the school is and how good the teacher is. Yeah. But genuinely, it really is. So you're absolutely spot on. One of the issues that you might have, I've come across this so many times. You go into a school, you're trying to work out.
Be right back, guys. I gotta let him run away out. Oh, and live stream might cut off without warning, so if it do, then I'll probably update it. Okay, wait for a few minutes, guys. I am letting the dog out to use the bathroom. am letting dogs use the bathroom, so yeah. It's gonna take a few minutes. Inside! Inside! Come on, Bella. Baby, come on. Baby, come on. Come on, girl. Not going to get a head down in the car, so you say that. Okay, guys, I am back. Oop. Bell. Mom messaged me. But yeah. Vel parent, they're good. But yeah.
Got a decent placement for the autistic child. And somebody says, oh, I know all about autism because I taught Jane last year who's autistic. At which point you might say, well, that just demonstrates that you don't know what you're talking about because you're making those assumptions that Johnny is going to be like Jane. And there is that temptation of saying, okay, what works, in inverted commas, for autistic people? Oh, it's whatever intervention you might think is hot off the press. That's problematic because there's clearly no single support strategy that's going to be effective for all autistic people. So it is all about understanding that the person A is autistic, B, that means that traditional non-autistic ways of teaching and learning are highly likely to be less effective. And thirdly, most importantly, trying to adapt those styles of teaching and learning to make it specific to the autistic need.
And we spoke just before starting this about how difficult it might be to pinpoint a child with autism, in the sense that some people can be very overt in presenting as autistic, but some can mask their autism effectively.
Absolutely, this is a real problem in schools. It would be remiss of me not to point out that lots of autistic people prefer to be known as autistic as opposed to a person with autism, which is commonly actually how professionals do refer to autistic people. But most autistic adults certainly would say being autistic is an intrinsic part of self. It's not sort of an add-on that you can do something about. And actually, that's all language is really important because it does dictate to a certain degree how the world understands and views autism. Should it be something that is fixable or cured and all of those sorts of things, as opposed to this as a real human being. Going back to your original question around
Bella in the room, and Chloe, and Mimi. And Bella is one who is doing the sort of, but yeah. That's runaway going off in. He went out to play, and I don't want to play right now, so he ain't in there until the live stream is done. If the live stream is done, then I'll let him out. But yeah.
And masking and what's echopraxic type behaviour where an individual might find themselves so uncomfortable in a social situation or a learning environment because they don't necessarily intuitively know what's expected of them in terms of behaviour. So they copy other people's behaviour in order to kind of fly under the radar. They don't.
I'll be honest, I done something like that when I was younger in high school. Like, I have masked myself before. Like, even though I'm autistic, I try to blend in with other people, like neurotypicals. But now that I'm out of high school, I realized that that was just ignorant of me. And I did really kind of was not supporting my own kind when I did have. But yeah. But I realized it was wrong.
Want to be in the spotlight, they want to get along like everybody else. So they adopt quite proactively, very consciously in some cases, this copying, masking type behaviour, which in the short term is a brilliant way of getting through the school day. However, it doesn't do anything to alleviate the anxiety the individual is actually feeling. So what's going on behind the scenes may be very, very different to what the teacher sees. So you end up with a child who goes home and wrecks the house because their anxiety is literally hit levels that they can't cope with, or longer term has.
Now, I did not have a high anxiety rate. When I got home, I did what flabbergasted, and I did good. What are we like? Everybody else have a way of having like their stressed out, but when I get home, I just jump in bed and did. I'm on it. Bella is acting weird. I got 4 dogs in my room. And they're Bella. 3 of them are girls and 1 is a boy. The 2 other boys are out in the living room. 1 in the kennel because I can't trust him being out there while I'm in here. The other one's fine, but yeah.
Genuinely really serious mental health issues,
And that we,
well-being issues as a result.
And the other dog with Cubby, and there where he likes to lay down, and I call him Old Hag because he is old a-hole.
Of having to put on this facade on an ongoing basis. So you end up with really a sort of triple whammy. You've got a school who genuinely believes there's no issue with a child because he or she, often she, is putting on this amazing mask. Then you've got a child who is autistic and highly anxious, and then you've got an environment in which nobody actually believes this is going on. So the individual is left unsupported around his or her levels of anxiety. So it's a very real problem, it's a very real issue.
Is that we're in danger of what some of our same columnist Nancy goes often calls parent blaming, in the sense that they behave at school, so and if they're having problems at home, that must be your parenting. It can't be anything else, of course.
Absolutely, that's a brilliant observation. I don't know whether as a society we like parent blaming, or maybe it's the easy option, or whether people genuinely feel that it's something to do with parenting. Awesome doesn't come from bad parenting. That is an absolute categorical.
It depends on what it is.
Although still to this day, sometimes as soon as your child gets diagnosed with autism, you're offered parent counselling and parent therapy and family therapy and things like this, which is absolute nonsense as far as I can tell in terms of supporting the autistic child. And certainly from an educational point of view, I can find, I understand why a school might think, well, if all the problems are at home, it must be as a result of the environment at home as opposed to anything else. I tend to find it's the build-up of stress and anxiety during the school day that ironically the child actually feels comfortable enough to express her anxiety.
It can be both. Like literally, it can actually be both in a way.
It's in a familiar environment, which tends to be at home.
And the sort of correlation with behaviour problems in schools, behaviour can be attributed to autism wrongly, and then or behaviour can be not attributed to that autism when it should be.
Absolutely, yeah. I think one of the things that as a society we're incredibly bad at is making the assumption there is such thing as autistic behaviour, because there isn't. There's literally no behaviour that can be displayed by an autistic person that can't be displayed by anybody else. Otherwise, identifying autistic people would be dead easy.
Yeah.
Just say, do you do that?
Yeah.
X plus Y equals Z sort of thing. And yet we still talk about autistic behaviours. So you're right, there are presumably some kids out there who behave in all sorts of ways who aren't autistic, and people say, oh, well, they must be autistic. But I think more worryingly is when you have an autistic individual who is judged as a result of their behaviour, which isn't, in inverted commas, behavioural, in terms of it's not a conscious decision to disrupt or anything. It usually stems from having massive problems within that particular environment, and it is usually, if not always, a form of communication, not necessarily a deliberate form of communication, but it should be telling us something. If this person is that stressed, then we need to be doing something about it. One of the things that I think is becoming very, very slowly, but coming to the fore, is the whole intersectionality with race. So being autistic is being in a minority group. Black and ethnic minorities are, by definition, in a minority group. When you put those two together and have, for example, a black autistic child, the reports, certainly anecdotal reports from my experience from parents of black autistic kids, usually boys, is that they struggle even more than their peers in terms of getting an identification or a diagnosis, because there is this almost underlying assumption that black boys behave in certain ways that might not necessarily be the best of behaviour, and as a result they're branded very unfairly as, well, they're just the, in inverted commas, naughty black boy, when the reality is actually they are an autistic black boy who remains undiagnosed.
And I guess extending from that, you get poverty involved in certain situations, and you get the school environment itself can be a contributory factor. Unpicking all that as a teacher, is that a job for them even? I mean, where did the guidance come from on this?
That's a fantastic question. You're full of good questions this afternoon. Education is a teacher's responsibility. If being autistic plays a part in the education of a child, which it invariably will do, then that becomes a responsibility of the teacher. It's very flippant to say that, but the reality is, if that's your role in life, is part of pedagogy and teaching, and also plays a part in that, and you have a child who is autistic within your classroom, then you need to be taken that on board. The reality is far, far more difficult, because of course teachers have big workloads, they've got lots of kids, they're not necessarily particularly well trained in understanding autism, understanding autistic presentation, especially the more subtle sides of things, like you were mentioning earlier about masking, and often those kids are flying under the radar. So in terms of responsibility, it becomes an incredibly grey area around who actually identifies these children to then refer on to experts in terms of diagnosis, which is why I've always been a big fan of self-referral or referral from the family, even though it might be beneficial to have the school's backing. I think parents should be allowed, in inverted commas again, to refer on to a diagnosis without any support from education if education aren't particularly interested in going down that route.
Is it about being open-minded then, perhaps, to the possibility of autism involved in a situation? If you have a child who perhaps is having some behaviour problems, or the parents are saying they're having real struggles at home, what's happening at school, and they're always fine at school, is it then the teacher might just have it in their toolbox in their head saying, oh, is this an area we should cover?
I think sometimes it's very, very simple in terms of actually listening and believing to parents. I think there are so many parents who find it very difficult to communicate with school around what life is like for them at home, especially if school don't see it at school. Parents are to be believed, they're not making these things up. And I think if a parent has done their homework and they genuinely think that there's a likelihood of their child being autistic, then there need to be some steps taken along the lines of trying to work things out. If you're working with an autistic child and not acknowledging that they're autistic, then the risk of doing damage or harm to that child goes up exponentially. So whatever the signs are, they need to be taken very, very seriously. In a sense, it's just as useful to rule autism out as it is to rule it in. So I think any kind of identification of thinking, well, this child might be somewhere on the spectrum, might be autistic, then there needs to be some level of investigation.
So we talk a bit about the spectrum as well then. I mean, you know, the visualization you create when someone says spectrum is, oh, it's a severe end and a light end. And I hate to use those terms, but just to demonstrate the point. And that's not really what we're saying, is it?
We'll be right back. I didn't let you guys out. I gotta clean up the all pee.